looks like we are a go. Again, Sam, welcome into the lounge, man. I'm glad that we can do this again. And everybody watching on YouTube or listening in on the podcast, thanks for joining us in the lounge. I am your host, Tyler, and I've got Sam joining me again. Jack couldn't join us today, but we will for sure be getting him on shortly to get his take on a few things. So I appreciate you guys listening in and allowing us to throw some cool stuff at you and hopefully maybe get you thinking about some stuff. So, but Sam, welcome in again. Hope all's well since last time we talked.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that we're able to go ahead and do this again. So let's get it cracking.
All right. Well, I know we've hit on the draft multiple times, and I think that was just kind of a very exciting thing for us to go through with this new coaching staff. But I think that it's only fitting to go over this coaching staff. I think we hit on it a little bit in our first few episodes about kind of what we think could happen, but now we're starting to see what's starting to happen. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's really introducing who these coaches are, what type of players they're looking for, and then kind of what the scheme's going to look like. And over the last few days, if you read certain articles throughout the Twitterverse, there's a lot of speculation and a very similar viewpoints as to what's going on. And honestly, the weirdest thing is we're actually getting some viewpoints from these coaches. We're actually getting some insight. We're getting some hard data. At least it looks like hard data right away. So I don't know what maybe you have heard, but maybe give your take on what you've heard and kind of what excites you about that.
This defense is going to be something that I don't think us Lions fans have seen the way they're going to run it. I'm pretty sure we're doing a 3-4, but the way that they're going to have Anzarike and McNeil on the defensive line, that man, it like I think it was Aleem said that they're going to do some damage, and the way that they're going to be lining up, oh my gosh, seriously going to do some damage. And what I was a little surprised about, I don't know, some people may think otherwise, but putting Flowers at the outside linebacker position, because he's a bigger guy. I'm okay on him. I know we signed him to a big contract, and 5 years, 90 million, and so far he has not played up to it. And he even had Patricia's scheme that he fits so well in New England. Maybe putting him back in the outside linebacker position is going to go ahead and enhance his playing ability, make him cover the tight ends, maybe get after the. I think the problem for him is he's not the greatest lineman getting down on at a 3-point stance. I think if he has the choice to go ahead and rush standing up, I think he will benefit a lot more. I know he maybe not be used to it, but I think with this new coaching staff and the way all these coaches have played before and all of their insight and everything, I'm so glad that we got the linebacker coach from, I think he was from Chicago.
Yeah, it is a DeGrom.
Yeah,
I can't remember how
he had a he had a perfect linebacking core at Chicago, and I think we may be able to do that as well. Now I'm still surprised by having both Okwaras go back to outside linebacker as well, but who knows?
Well, and I think that's what is kind of exciting about this, because we know Flowers could probably do that from time to time. I mean, and we saw him a couple years ago, and then last year he would drop into coverage a few times. Now that wasn't what Patricia wanted him to do. And I think you and I hit on this before, maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, that he is probably best suited with other playmakers on the team. When he's trying to be the best guy on the team, I think it's not that he's trying too hard or he can't do it. I just don't think that's the player he is. I think if he's the focal point and people can pick up on that, or the other teams can pick up on that and scheme against it, he's kind of screwed. But now that you add these two beefy linemen, and then you add Brockers to the mix, and then you add a defensive line coach and a linebacker coach who are basically saying it doesn't matter how we get to the quarterback, whether we're sending 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, I think you saw that come out to where he was counting as many people as he'll send. As much as the blitz scares the heck out of you sometimes because that leaves that back end so vulnerable. But if you can get there and do it effectively and consistently, yikes. I mean, it doesn't matter who's back there, they're going to play very well. And I just think that Flowers can benefit from that. Do I agree with him putting him at linebacker? I don't know. I mean, I get it because you're trying to get your best players on the field, but I think you have better suited players for that position in particular. And I want Onzarike to start day one. I really do. But if he has to sit back and learn from Flowers for a little bit, pick up some of those things, and then play off each other, I think that's probably best suited. But I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna quote or question this coaching staff. And maybe that's what they do because I think people read into it a little bit too much. And correct me if I'm wrong, but their base package is 3-4. That doesn't mean that they're always going to play a 3-4. They could be their sub package, or they could play their dime package, or even throw the nickel in too. I mean, I don't know how they're going to play that, but um, they could have a heavy sub where they have a lot of linebackers, but they could have a light sub and have safeties, corners in there too. So I just think that you're still going to see him a lot in the dirt. I really do, but I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that he could consistently play at a decent level there. I just don't know how he can do very well as far as coverage goes. Um,
Right.
that's kind of my concern there. But I mean, if you're dropping him back a few times, or if he's rushing from that position, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, to piggyback off what you just said, I think he will definitely benefit being a stand-up rusher. Because so far he has not done well when he's on the line. So, and if we're doing the 3-4 defense, I like, from what I'm hearing, having Levi as the nose tackle. Um, I really believe that if you have a bigger person up the middle, right over the center, that just helps close those gaps and prevent the running back getting through, because that's exactly what we did when we had Sue and Fairley and we had a top 5 defense. Of course, we had some pretty good linebackers. Um, but what I'm really excited to see perform well is Tavai. I know we have given him so much crap over the last, now this is going to be his 3rd year with the Lions, but showing that he's actually put in the work this offseason to lose some weight and to add in some muscle. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life. I know he's probably only like 23, 24 years old, but he looks like he's ready to fight for a starting role.
Yeah, and as well as he should. I mean, he was a high draft pick, and he's got a lot to prove right now. The thing is he actually played fairly well in the first part of his career, but then last year, I just it makes you wonder. I mean, he was horrid more often than not, and I think I really still put that on the coaching staff, not necessarily them not being able to coach him up, but just the scheme. And I mean, everybody, you said it before. I mean, we were dead last. I think you even surprised yourself when you're like, man, they had a horrible defense. They were 31st. I can't remember which team you were talking about. And then you go, who was worse than? Oh, it was us.
Yeah.
You know. So I just I feel for him. I really do, because he really took a beating, and he still kind of is. But I mean, if he's putting the effort into it and he takes off, you didn't lose. I mean, he's playing up to what his position. He may never live up to that second round pick. But as long as he can stick and do it consistently, and do as the coaches ask of him, and he can perform, he needs to be on this team, because that's what our coaching staff's looking for. And that's what I get excited about. You mentioned the new linebacker coach, and he talked him up big time. So he must see something, and he's come from a lineage of linebackers that are pretty darn good. So, I mean, you don't have the Urlachers and the Briggs and those guys anymore, but you still have a decent linebacking core. Chicago, I mean, they always seem to bring some sort of linebacker there. So, um, and he left a pretty darn good one too, with Chicago. So, but he's got a bevy of them here. I mean, he's got
Right.
some big guys that can play linebacker, so that's got to be exciting for him too. And he's got a couple safeties that could potentially play that lighter role as well. So I think it's going to bode well. And what these coaches are saying is just it's really really cool in my opinion. I think the defensive line coach, his name is escaping me right now. Um, Wash, I
Is
think
it
Coach
John?
Wash. Is it Wash?
Oh,
Johnson's tight end coach.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm getting them all confused yet, but I think it's Coach Wash, and he was basically coming out saying, you know, Flowers is going to be this guy for us. We're going to run this base defense. We're going to, if we do subs, he's going from here to here. And, some of that might be a smokescreen, but I don't feel like it was. It's like, you know what? Who cares if you know what we're doing? If we can still tear into you as a defense, you should be scared. Um,
Right.
there will be disguises. We know that. But I just like the fact that there's no sheep or wool pulled over our eyes. It's just we're going to go play. We're going to put our best guys against your worst guys. You just may not know who that guy is, but the position's coming type thing. So that's what I
Right.
like about this coaching staff. And Campbell has them fired up, in my opinion. I mean, did you hear the comments that Brunell had on Goff?
Uh, you might have to remind me, but
Yeah, he came out today. Well, I don't know if it's today or yesterday, but there was a video on DetroitLions.com that he was just praising Goff, and he was saying, "Man, the tape is phenomenal." Of course, he has the different angles that I don't have, or you have, or whatever. I mean, obviously, those take subscriptions and things like that. But um, seeing that game film and seeing what Goff can truly do and how he can coach him to do the best that he can for our team, the excitement that Brunel had is almost the same excitement that you see with the quarterback coaches that got to play with Stafford. Again, I'm not liking Goff to Stafford because they are not the same. They aren't.
no,
I
yeah,
mean, no quarterback is the same as the other quarterback. I'm sorry. You'll have similarities, but you can't compare them. And it's not fair to either one to compare them. So I'm done with that. I'll never do that again. I miss Stafford. I wish him well, but Goff is my quarterback. And when I see the coach is fired up about it, that makes me fired up about it. And I think they're going to set him up well. He's coming into a situation to where it's like, all right, let's play. Let's play. I've got some former players here who know what the heck they're doing. They've lasted, I think Brunel was 19 years in the league.
yep,
Uh, I've got an offensive minded coach who's got a defensive minded passion. You know what I mean? So this is cool. And like I said, he's 26. I say that over and over. He's 26. And I think this coaching staff, Brunel, mainly Brunel, will be able to get that out of him. And then you look at Anthony Lynn, he's got to be smiling from ear to ear with the backs that he has. I mean, I think he came out today and basically said, we have a bevy of or multitude of 3 down backs in our backfield. So that's cool too. Cause just think about how fresh these guys are going to come in each and every week, because not necessarily that I want to see them, hey, he's got the hot hand, ride him. But if you see that he's wearing down and this guy's still just as hot, throw him in there, or put him in the field at the same time, because then you don't know where anything's going. So
right.
yeah, I'm excited for Lynn too.
Yeah, and we've had some good offenses over the years. When we had Bush, when he got over, I think it was 2013 when we have last had a 1,000-yard rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I truly believe if Swift is able to stay healthy, I think if not come close to it, I think he'll eclipse 1,000 yards and have at least over 500 receiving yards. Because as long as we use him the correct way, and I think we will, because last year Patricia used him as a workhorse and overworked him, and you could tell, especially in practice, they went too hard. You can't do that with one of your star players. So I'm really excited to see. I already know that their chemistry as coaches and players are already growing as fast. Um, but I can't wait to see how well Brunel does with Goff. I know we just talked about it, but I have not liked any single quarterback coach with the Lions. I have never been able to stand um what's the guy? He has three names. Jim Bob
Bob Cooter.
Cooter. I did not like him. I did not like Lombardi. I couldn't even remember the last few. I've
Sean
never cared for.
Ryan. We
Yeah.
had Ryan. He was probably the best one that we had out of all of them, but
Now that you have literally the most experienced coach, I would say, on the team, 19 years, over 40,000 passing yards, you cannot get a better quarterback coach than that.
and how many
And
teams? No, that's the one thing. I mean, I guess I could search it, but just think of the different uh, offensive coordinators he played under, the
I think it
different
was
schemes.
6.
Yeah. See, so yeah, I don't. I mean, even Deuce Staley being your assistant coach too, he's got that wealth of knowledge as well, and the respect of the players in the league. So I just think this coaching staff has won over these players, and I think they're going to get a lot out of these guys that, like you mentioned, Tavai, or let's say a Will Harris, or some of these other guys like a Mike Ford, couple tackles. You have Nelson on there. You've got Stenberg. We still don't know what we have Stenberg, but
Right.
I'm glad they've got our offensive line coach back. He loves everything he can about the line. I mean, he talked up Crosby, whether that's trying to just up the trade bait. I still don't think they're going to trade him. I think you have to look at trading almost everybody on your team at one point just to see what they're worth. And I think that's bad business if you don't. But I don't see. I can't. And I go back to Eric Schlitt. He said this: his two positions he would never, if you had a swing position, would be cornerback and right tackle or tackle alone. If you had a guy that could come in and play like you do with a Crosby or like you do with maybe now with a couple of the like Dunbar and Elder and Melifonwu and all the guys that you have now. But if you have a guy that can come in, if a guy goes down or is winded or gets sick or however that works, those are valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to try to get a third or a fourth round pick out of these guys, but yet go get a tackle or sign somebody out in free agency that really the other team could have too because they're fairly even, why'd you trade the guy? I mean, at that point, that pick is not valuable enough, at least in my book. And I agreed with what Eric had written, but he basically said that those are kind of those vital positions that if you've got a guy that who started, I think he started what 13 games for us last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what he did well, in my opinion. Yeah, I just I have a hard time trying to get something for him. Great, you do, but what did you lose early on? Right away.
Right. And I would honestly choose Crosby over anybody to go ahead and put on the line. I still can't stand Vitae. I know people, I don't know who it was that was praising him that he's a great guard. He's one of the best. He could be one of the best. I hope he went ahead and took this offseason seriously and started getting more into shape and worked out more so that he doesn't get dehydrated after 1 or 2 quarters in the game or gets cramps or hamstring problems because it seemed like every single game he was playing, he got injured.
Mhm. Yeah, you're
So
right. And I think just to elaborate a little bit, and I'll let you continue. I just think a lot of that too could be what was actually going on, like you had said at practice, that they were tearing these guys up. I mean, yeah, being in shape is a big thing about it, but if you're so worn out because of practice or what it may be, something's wrong. And I think we were seeing a lot of that too.
I think he was I think he was just getting a pass that when he signed, they were like, oh yeah, you're gonna be the starter, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think he let himself go. Of course, I'm a 21-year-old that I don't have much room to talk about that because I'm not in the NFL, but I really think he let himself go a little bit. And if you want to say got too cocky or got too full of himself, thinking that he's going to be able to stay the starting at that time tackle, but now guard. Maybe guard is where he needs to be and has needed to be this whole time. As long as he's able to get more into shape and where he doesn't get dehydrated, I'm fine. I would like him to see, or I would like to have him play 3/4 of a game, not a half or a quarter. Maybe play even more than half the season. So it just the fact is, who do we have? Like, because reserves, in my opinion, especially on offensive line, are very vital to this team. Of course, you have the backup tight ends or wide receivers or quarterbacks, but you don't have a team without an offensive line. And last year we witnessed it in some games. Once somebody went down, it's like we were scrambling just to go ahead and grab some people to go ahead and block. So
Right.
this year, I really want to see who makes the roster, the final roster. The only thing is, are they keeping it with the COVID rules as more than 53, like what it was, like 56 or 59, like
Yeah,
last year?
I'm not sure if that's ever come out yet or if that's in the news yet. That might be something that we need to look up. And if anybody's watching this or whatnot, put it in the comments below and we'll definitely take a look at it or hit us up on our Twitter pages. But yeah, that's one thing that we'll have to do some research on because that is huge. That's one of those guys you can stash, if you will, and not get penalized for it.
Right.
I'll look it up.
It's just
Actually.
because for once, there's actually some pretty good undrafted free agents or people that we have brought in for workouts that we have already signed. And it's something that they see that we have not yet seen from them. So I want to be able to find out if that increases our practice squad to more than 11 players. Because if that's the case, we can really keep a lot of those really good players. So we're going to have a huge episode when it comes out with the 53-man roster.
Yeah, that one's going to be a fun one to do. I think that one might be a multiple parter, like an offense and a defense, and maybe even a special teams as well, because I think that's one area of this coaching staff that nobody's really talking about yet. And Philly had some sneaky good special teams unit in the past with Phip, and maybe nobody's talking about him because he's got some crazy eyes and they don't know what he's going to do to him. Um, and I joke and I kid, but he could have something here too because that has been completely remade. If you think about it, we've got a new kicker. We don't know what we have with this kicker yet. I mean, we have an idea, but maybe again a change of scenery and kicking in a dome and all that stuff might help them out a little bit. You still have Muehlbach there, but that could be turned over next year. Who knows when he's going to hang it, or knock on wood, he stays healthy. Um, you know, Jack Fox is coming off of a heck of a rookie season, but we don't know what type. And I'm not talking bad, but what if he hits a wall? You know what I mean? So there's those things that you just don't know. You've got multiple return men that you're playing around with now, with Agnew now in Jacksonville. You've got probably six six pieces on your blocking that are all changed because Killebrew's gone. You lost
Yep.
Harmon, who was on that. You lost Jared Davis. You lost, it's yeah. So I just think that that's one that we'll have to take a look at too. So you're right. I think once we start breaking down this roster, maybe not right to the 53, but maybe as we get there and we see some cuts. But I think those really should be a three-part series with offense, defense, special teams type thing for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So,
I did pull up a thing here real quick, and so this will be something the coaches will have to decipher. But here's a couple new ones, and I'll hit on them quickly. This came out in April. Jeremy Reisman, he's one that I follow on Pride of Detroit. I really like his stuff. But he says breaking down the NFL's 6 new rules for the 2021 season. So number one, they eliminate overtime in the preseason. Obviously that's self-explanatory. So um, and I guess there's only 3 preseasons this year and not
yep.
4. So which is good but bad at the same time because I feel bad. There are a lot of people that make teams on that 4th game. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. Um, Number 2 establishes maximum number of players for the step up zone during free kickoff. So again, the step up zone would be, I think it's what, 4 or 5 yards from the
Yeah.
10-yard rule or whatever from the ball. Let's see. I don't want to read all these. We'll have to look at them as we go. Replay officials can now provide certain objective information to on-field officials. So a little bit more there. Possession of the ball, completed or incomplete pass, touching of a loose ball, boundary line, goal line, or end zone, spot of the ball / player in relation to the sidelines, line of scrimmage, line of gain, or goal line, and down by contact when not ruled on the field. So they're at least trying to do something there. Number 5, add a loss of down to the penalty of a second forward pass. Pretty much a self-explanatory there. And then we have the jersey number changes. So it doesn't sound like it's any different, the roster size, just because I think the pandemic is still there. We may see that for a while. Maybe they whittle that down to a different number instead of what they had now. Maybe you can carry an extra 1 or 2 instead of the number later on. But it sounds like from what I see, it's all the same. So we'll have to go with that one.
Yeah. So I got a question.
I hope I have an answer.
If you could go ahead and choose, let's see. I prefer one choice, but I know there's no way you can just pick one. We'll go with 2 to 3. What coach, the new coach, any of the new coaches, which one excites you the most? Any positional coach? I know we've already talked about how much we love Dan Campbell, but position coach wise, which one are you hoping makes the most impact immediately? Offense, defense, special teams?
I'm going with Aubrey Pleasant. I really like that signing there. I think, in my opinion, I'm just a big fan of the DB room, not necessarily our team, but just in general. I think it's the hardest position to play. I think you need the most athletic people there. I think you need the best way you need the mindset there to break things down. And it's that nuance of the game is just intriguing to me. And Pleasant was able to do that in LA, and he had a heck of a team to do that with. And I think I'm slowly starting to see that there. Now we know what we have with Akuda. Really, we do. I mean, he's a guy that I think is going to be just fine in this league. He had a bad year with a horrible coach and a nasty, crappy defense.
Right.
3 strikes against him, and he didn't even get to play like I think he should have. Oruwariye is a good complementary piece. I think he could be maybe a second team All Pro at some point, or a Pro Bowl or whatever here or there. I don't think he's that consistent Pro Bowl like a Patrick Peterson or, whoever else you want to throw in there. But I mean, I think he's a good piece to the puzzle. I think Dunbar is a good addition. I think Elder's a good addition. Do I think they're starters day one? Probably over Oruwariye at this point. I do like the younger guys starting with Corn in the slot. But I mean, Dunbar he's had a heck of a career. So, and maybe he
Yeah.
can get revitalized after having kind of a down off year, too. So, but the unknown are the safeties. We don't really know what we're going to get out of Will Harris. He was one of those surprise picks, in my opinion. I liked him coming out of college. I didn't expect to pick him where we picked him. And I love Tracy Walker. I mean, his first year here, they should have never changed a thing with that guy. He should have been what he was, because he, 100 tackler. I mean, he had sacks in there. He had PBUs. He had awesome open field tackles. I don't know what happened with his mental side, because he couldn't tackle tight ends to save his life this year. He couldn't cover them to save his life this year. But his first year in the league, he was phenomenal at it. So we know he can do it. And I have really high hopes for him, especially with this coaching staff with Aubrey Pleasant and Aaron Glenn at the same time. I mean, these two guys are, I think, the perfect mindset for what we need to get out of and to develop into our staff. So I'm just picking one. I mean, I'm excited about them all. I really am. But I am going with Pleasant just because that group is so intriguing to me. You have three young cornerbacks from the last 3 years draft. You brought in a young safety. I'm going to call him young. I think he's 28, but guy that hasn't played a ton, and he's intriguing to me. And then you've got Dunbar, who's kind of your vet of the group now, and he's really not even that old. So that's where I want to see take a big step up because they were horrid last year. They weren't in the right spots. And if you can all of a sudden see that they flipped from dead last, which I'm sure they were, I don't have the position by position breakdowns, but if you can get into that first half of the league, 14 through 16, they did their job.
Right.
How about you? I'm gonna flip it on you now.
I figured you're gonna do that, but see, I'm so excited to see so many different things. I'm ready to go ahead and see tight ends coach because I really think Campbell is going to go ahead and have more of a say in that since he played the position. I'm excited to see the defensive line coach, um, especially with the young group that we have that I hope is going to stay with us for the next 2 contracts, hopefully. I know I'm trusting our offensive line. I really believe that they're going to be one of the strongest units that we have on the entire team. Quarterback, I'm content with, but if I had to choose one, it would be either defensive line or wide receivers.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was gonna be my sneaker pick. Was I forgot about Antoine Randwell? I think he's a kind of one of those uh spark spark lighters, if you will.
Yeah, and it's just a tough decision because our defense. I have not seen the defensive line play well. Like I always go back to 2014.
Mm-hmm.
That is the best defense that I have ever seen the Lions play. We were top 5 in almost every category. And I'm hoping that with this defensive scheme that we're going to be running, having Anzurike as nose tackle. No, I think it's McNeil at nose tackle, and then Anzurike at the edge, and Brockers on the other side. I'm really hoping that because those are all pretty big guys, especially McNeil. I'm hoping that it brings some type of spark back because Detroit is no team without their defense. Because if I'm not mistaken, Detroit was always known for their defense way back, I would say, besides Barry Sanders and Billy Sims. I remember, do you remember Kyle Vanden Bosch? He was a
He's a motor.
surprise signing. Yep. It's just like, I want to see, I now hope that the younger players listen, don't have no egos, don't think they know it all, actually learn from the coaches on how to get better. And if they're able to click with each other, because I can already tell you, Anzurike and McNeil have already clicked, and they've only practiced with each other. Just imagine what they can do in game time. So,
Yeah,
I'm
and they
really
play
hoping.
they play completely different positions if you think about it. Yeah, they're on the defensive line, but you have two different contracts that you'll have to worry about in 4 years. But I don't think I'm worrying about it. I'm paying both, because you've got McNeil, who's strictly a nose tackle. And I mean, obviously they're going to get paid, but then you got the defensive ends. But it's just like it's not like you have to pay identical money for it. But I think those guys could actually stay if all pans out well. They could stay for quite some time.
Yeah, like I've already said multiple times, I want to just see improvement, all around improvement. Having 11 players on the field, not 10, not 12, not 9.
No. I agree. I think with Glenn and Capers and those guys there and their defensive quality control coach, all those guys are going to make sure that everything's like. And I don't think Campbell's going to let that one happen at all. Um, but yeah, so I was right. It's Todd Wash is the defensive line coach.
Okay, yeah.
Ben Johnson is the tight end coach. Yeah, he's got a decent room there too because, with Darren Fells signing back, and then you obviously have Big Hawk there. I think he's going to be fun to watch, and I think he's just going to light it up. I mean, him going to the tight end U, if you will, now with all the other guys that are getting together. Um, he's doing it right. He's getting in the mindset. He's putting in the work. I think it's going to be fantastic here. And like you just said not too long ago, with Campbell being that tight ends coach, I think he's going to be really hands on with him. And not necessarily say, okay, TJ, you're going to be our blocker for this scheme or this whole series or whatever. No, we're just going to refine a few things that you can block a little longer, then break off it, and then go catch your touchdown because that's what you're going to do a lot of this year is catch touchdowns. But so I think that one is a number one for me. I think he's going to do well. But I'm just so excited about Aubrey Pleasant. I mean, when we signed him, I I was ecstatic there. And he's the pass game coordinator too. So he and Aaron Glenn are going to be working hand to hand. Um, and I'm sure he'll be in the running game, the defensive running game room as well. I mean, he's probably going to end up becoming a defensive coordinator at some point here in the near future. Um, and that's the sad thing too, because you look down this list of coaches. I mean, Anthony Lynn could work himself back into a head coaching position. Deuce Staley's
Hmm.
going to get a chance. Mark Brunell could end up being an offensive coordinator right today if you let him, I believe. Um, you've got Antoine Randwell could become an offensive coordinator because he's got the quarterback mentality, but he's got the wide receiver skill set. Uh, Aaron Glenn's going to be a head coach. I bet Dom Capers works into something in like general management at some point. I mean, I know he's on the older end, but um,
Right.
Todd Wash could end up becoming a defensive coordinator. I mean, these guys are just all over the board. And then you've got the younger guys, all your assistants. You got Kelvin Shepard, who is a linebacker himself, who could end up becoming a defensive coordinator at some point here too. So, yeah, this is really cool. This is a heck of a staff, and I honestly feel like the one, and he's not a coach, but he is a coach because I saw him on the field. He's a guy that'll never ever get himself out of the game. And I think he has a much larger role than we had ever anticipated. And I'm happy for it. And that's Mr. Spielman. And I think that he is kind of your low key defensive, whatever you want to call it. He's on the field running with these guys, hyping them up, you know, shouting at them in an educational way. And that's awesome for assistant to the whatever his title is. I don't really care. I think he's probably a very important key cog from top to bottom. He is definitely that guy that's in the meetings. He's in the guy that's helping make those huge decisions up top. We saw that in the draft room. Um, but he's also a guy that's going to get on the field, get dirty, and play with these guys and coach them up and show them how it is. Because I mean, you heard him on the telecast. I loved it when Spielman was on the telecast, when he was the play-by-play caller or the color commentator or whatever he is. He was in there going, "You can't do this. You need to do that," and he's telling us, not the players, but
Right.
and I got fired up listening to it. I'm like, why is this guy not a coach? How is he not part of a team yet? And we got that answer. So I guess I guess he's probably one that I'm really excited for too. But um, I still stick with my first answer with Pleasant. I think he's going to have a heck of a job there with Okuda. Am I going to call him a Pro Bowl player this year? Probably not, but he's going to take a huge step forward for sure.
Right. And the thing that I'm liking already, I don't know if it's influenced by the coaches or Campbell or Holmes or anything, but I like seeing Goff is already working with I think I saw it was Cephas and Swift. I don't know who else may be out there in LA, but it is just nice to see that he's actually taking the time. Probably he has to, but actually wanting to gain the chemistry with the players so that we're not going to be one of those top 5 draft picks next year or having one of the worst records in the NFL. Now that I saw that he's actually putting in the work with the players that we have right now, it's giving me more hope that he's actually serious about this and serious about bringing a winning team back to Detroit. So it's not to knock Stafford because I know he always was doing that, and he's doing that right now with the Rams players.
Mhm.
But but I think Goff is serious by what he was saying. He's going to try his best, and now practicing with Swift, who is going to be his right hand man all season long. Right there, you're already creating a 1-2 punch for the offense, and so I can see us having a first to or worst to first, and I would say definitely rushing, but passing as well, especially out of the play action pass.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the all-purpose yards that we get out of our backs. You said it back to what was it 2013 when you had Bell and Bush and those guys were just tearing it up. I mean, they were. I think what did Bell have? He had like 500 and 600 for rushing, passing, so he had over 1,000 all-purpose yards and however many touchdowns. And then Bush had 1,000 all-purpose yards and however many touchdowns, and they were the first tandem to do it in quite some time. From the same team, I think is I'd have to look up that stat, but it was an impressive stat for those guys. And those teams, we had shots on those teams. I really do wish we had what, and I still don't even know what that missing piece was. It always seemed to be something different each game, but and it was frustrating because you're like, man, we're so close, but we're not. We're so close, but we cannot get over that hump. So I get the change. We went the way wrong direction, but I think what Holmes and Campbell are doing, and I go back to basketball. I know it's a completely different sport. I really do. But if you go back and watch the Pistons this year, they won 22 games, I think, out of however many. It was a shortened season, 74, 70 games, something like that. And but they said that they tanked the correct way. And by that they mean they probably secured a top 3 pick. So they get just added fuel to their fire, but they did it in a way that they grew as a team, and they were able to grow as not only a team but a coaching staff as well. It played their coach into I think a 3-year coaching extension. You've got a core of 4 players who are going to be there for quite some time, assuming they can stay healthy, or depends on trades and stuff. The NBA is crazy with trades and contracts and stuff like that, but I just, and that's why I can't really liken it to football too much, but it's just the fact that you can flip a roster, keep one guy from the previous season, win about as many games as you won the game of the season before, and you grew. You actually grew, and I think that's what we're seeing here. We'll know more once we get into preseason. I'm actually kind of excited to see some of these backup quarterbacks too. I really like Blau. I do. I'm pulling for him, and I think Boyle will be just fine too. But it's going to be interesting to see how we develop those under players. The backup linemen. Like, how do you develop Stenberg? Obviously, they tried to develop Dahl, a couple years ago, and he started, but he never panned out to what they thought he could be. And so it's like, okay, well, I kind of see that way with Stenberg, but with this group, I kind of see that, okay, they're going to get enough out of him. And I think he's a Campbell type player because he was nasty in college. He's one of those guys that it's going to be Campbell going, okay, you did awesome, just like Onzarike, but rein it back a little bit, you know, you know,
Right.
bring it out when you need to, not every play. And I think he's going to get that out of him. I have a hunch we may end up 0-4, but I don't think I'll be a disappointed 0-4. Honestly, I think you could sneak a win out or against San Francisco and start 1-0. I really believe that, and just because I think they're going to come out firing, they're home. You're going to have 100% crowd there, assuming everything
Yep.
stays safe. We saw that come out by July 1st. I mean, the Tigers are going to fill up really quickly here, with however many games they have left. But it's I think this is an exciting time. You get all your fans in. That place is going to be rocking. I think everybody's buying in. It's cool.
And that's the thing. Like, there is not a fan base like every fan base for every team, every sport is so different, but there is none like the Detroit Lions. It killed the team spirit and the team overall last season without having any fans. I get you can go ahead and have those fake cheering over the intercom, but
Mm.
that it doesn't do anything for the team. The morale was the opposing team would score a touchdown, everybody would give up.
Mhm.
Now the fact that we're having full capacity and everybody's excited about this team, I honestly, the sky's the limit with this team. I just, I know we've blamed the refs for how many years now that they cost us so many games.
Some of them it was warranted, but I
Yes,
think it was just easy to pass blame because that's all we had.
correct. I'm hoping that that is the end of it, that we don't need to go ahead and blame the refs. I know that Packers game, uh, whether or not I think it was either last year or 2 years ago, in which they had back to back face mask calls on us, which he had him by the shoulder.
Oh, the hands to the face with flowers.
Yes, yep.
Yep.
I'm
I
hoping
mean,
that we can have the adversity to go ahead and who cares about what the refs call? We can go over that. We can beat them with calling all of those crappy calls
mhm.
so that we don't need to go ahead and blame it on the refs, all saying that we lost it this time because of them. I'm hoping that Campbell says, who gives a crap what they have to say? Go ahead and keep playing until the last whistle blows and keep your heads up and just keep on fighting.
Mhm. Well, and that's one thing that I do wish too that, and I want to do it within the rules and I want to be tasteful when they do this, but I really wish that, and I think this coaching staff can do it. Somebody on that team, that coaching staff is going to do this at some point, but is be brutally honest in your press game. I mean, if you get fined, you get fined, but something needs to happen because you look at some of these things and it may be this Detroit versus everybody, poor us, whatever, but there's some truth to it. And that Packers game, that was lost on those horrible calls. It really was. And that's what I'm hoping that this rule change that you see here to where there's a replay official that can go back and question that call now is what it sounds like. So, I mean, it's a little too late. Okay, that's fine, but at least they're doing something about it. But I think that I could see Campbell actually saying, "Well, you know what? That is BS, and this guy, and I'm probably going to get fined, but I need somebody to say it, and I'm going to run this up the flagpole, and we'll see what happens. But I have to stick up for my team." You look at Caldwell, and he was just quiet about it, and then you look at um, Patricia, and he just was so adamant that he wasn't going to do anything, and he's not going to talk about that, and he didn't want to get fined because he probably wanted all his money. And I mean, I'm throwing all this out there, but I feel like the coaching staff we have is one of those that's not going to take any crap and basically get fired up. So, I mean, you look at baseball, some of those teams, when they're down and their manager gets ejected, and it lights a little fire. I mean,
Right.
they should be able to do that tastefully, but they should be able to voice displeasure. Push those boundaries a little bit, basically saying, hey, they just gave me a warning for 15-yard unsportsmanlike. Okay, but they gave me a warning. I let them know about it. So I think this team can do that. I think they will. Because Patricia he just looked stupid, like dumbfounded. I mean, he was standing there holding his shirt, just going, well, we're getting beat. No, go light a fire under the guys that aren't playing. I mean, that's not belittle them, but get them going. Pull them together and say, look, look at the scoreboard. We're down 10 with however many to go. We can do this. I mean, I know some of it sounds cliche and movie-esque, but I don't care. I mean, sometimes those little speeches mean something. And I think we've got the guys that can actually buy into now because they are relatable. So,
Yes. Patricia, he just did the yelling. He didn't do the encouraging. or bringing up the players' heads when they were down at halftime or something like that. He was lazy, and that's I'm plainly saying it. He was lazy. He was the laziest coach that we have ever had. Probably the laziest in the whole NFL, and I'm glad that we let him go when we did.
Mhm.
And like you said, Campbell's going to be the one to light the fire under every player's ass, even the coaches. Um, this is going to be a whole new team. It's going to be a team that we've never seen before. So that's why we can't say it enough. We can't talk about it enough because we're so excited. We have never seen anything like this before.
Nope, I think we've had glimpses. I mean, you start getting around my age and older, and I think Mike and Malcolm and those guys too that, or even Lion Mane out there, they'll talk about some of those defensively, especially Mike. He throws out the old school players, and I remember growing up I was probably 12, so 97, 98, 99. Towards the end of Barry's career, but the defensive players that we had on that team. I mean, I can name a few. You had Ron Rice, and you had uh, Terry Fair, and you had Robert Porcher and Luther Ellis, and then linebackers. You had Stephen Boyd and Chris Claiborne, and gosh, there's so many that you can. And as you go through, you had Stephen Tulloch, and you've had. Uh, I mean, there's so many more to name that could have panned out, and a lot of those defenses that were actually really good. Um, and then you had the offensive side. You had a decent tight end in David Sloan, and you had the receivers out there with Moore and Morton and Crowell and Moore and Morton and Perriman and then obviously you had the Roy Williams and the Calvin Johnsons, Mike Williams, all that stuff. Those players did have some excitement there, so I can understand why they took those guys. Um, Kevin Jones, Kevin Smith, um, I mean, James Stewart. I mean, you're throwing all these names out there that maybe you don't know some of them, but or have heard of them and haven't seen them, but they get you excited because they played well as a unit. As a whole team. I go back to basketball again, the 2004 Pistons. You did not have a
Yeah.
superstar. Each game had a different high score. You had each game that had a different person that brought something to the table. Even the coach, Larry Brown, won a few of those games himself because it just takes that. You have your sparks, like your sixth man coming off the bench or whatever. Come on, Crosby, you're our spark plug. Um, but yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see this team go as a team. It takes 11 people to win, but it does take one person to lose. So they have to be on top of their game. And if that does happen, I don't want that person going down and being that person that's like, okay, I suck at this game, because I feel like that's what it could have happened under the previous regime, is that they just falter. We saw Slay beat him up his first few years with Schwartz. I mean, if you can turn around and coach that player up and he becomes the best player he can that next game, you just did your job. And I think that's what we've got going on with the guys that we put into place. Now, I could be completely wrong, but based on what I see, and you know what, I don't care if we win 3 games. I can't see us losing more than what we lost last year. We were horrible last year,
Yeah.
horrible. So I think we're going to be drastically better just by confidence, one, and two, knowing where you're going. So I can't see. I mean, it's a tough schedule. It is, but I think we had the fifth or sixth toughest schedule out there based on early projections. So, or last year's records or whatever it ended up being. I mean, Pittsburgh had the hardest, but I think we play them this year too. So
Yep.
it's that's probably why it's the hardest schedule. Um, but I just, it's exciting, but I know, hey, you know what? We win 5 games. I can't be disappointed. It's first year coaching staff that's never been in the positions that they are.
Right.
Um, and the players that haven't been in the positions that they are. So and they all have a chance, and that's what might surprise some people. They could end up, like you had mentioned, 9-8 and sneak into the playoffs, or they may end up at 7-10 and still sneak in the playoffs. You never know. You have no idea with
Right.
this. So yeah, it's going to be one of those fun years, I think. So I'm super excited about it. Um, and we'll have to definitely hit on that one, the schedule once we get a little closer into the 53 man roster.
Now, yeah, one final question that I just thought of. Um, I don't know whether or not if it's true or if it's just people start trying to start rumors. What do you think about the Lions or Ford Field becoming a um, retractable roof? I have heard a lot of reports saying that they are in serious considerations of doing it. And
From what I understand, this was in talks a handful of years ago when they were trying to get the MLS there. Um, and I think since that fell through, they just, money talks. So obviously, if they've got the money, they're going to do it. So I'd be all for it. I mean, that field was built in 2002, so we're going on 20 years now. Um, it's a nice building. I've been in there multiple times. It's they did a nice job with the renovations that they did. But if you can add that element too, to where it's like, you know what, today I feel like playing in 30-degree weather. Let's make it. You know, I I think that's awesome. I really do. It's just a different element. It's a different field, and what it tells me is that they're willing to invest in the team and into the stadium that says, you know what, we're putting money in here. This team's not going anywhere. Um,
right,
we want this team, and Sheila Ford Hamp, I can't take my hat off to her enough because she has turned that around. I mean, nothing against the other two, but they were done. They were done. To put it nicely, they were over it. And I think Martha, God bless her heart, but I just think that Sheila has done what she needed to do. And I think it's only going to get better because I think she's going to learn more as she goes, and it's going to be a good thing. So,
yeah, couldn't agree more. I basically would say the same exact thing. Um, and going off of what you were saying about Sheila, of course, everybody was gunning for somebody to go ahead and buy the team, and because they didn't think Martha could take control of the team anymore, and yet she was 95 or 96, I think, still
mhm.
running the team. And I was a little surprised that Sheila wanted to go ahead and take over, but it's literally the best decision that we have ever made. She was playing the backseat driver this entire time, and now she's finally getting a chance to go ahead and do what she wants. And now I have a feeling, like I've already said, she's going to bring a championship to Detroit,
I
and
think so.
that's saying a lot.
No, I think so. I mean, definitely it's going to take some time. I'm not. I mean, if it happened this coming year, then absolutely I'm going to be ecstatic. But even if it happened in the next 10 years, we're already way ahead. I don't think it would take that long. I mean, I know winning in the playoffs is very difficult to do. And creating a dynasty is even more difficult. But if you can create a consistent contender and you're there year after year and you're only getting better, and it's going to be difficult too because other teams get better. So that's the hardest part. Um, but I just think that if you can see that, prove that, show that to everybody, and her willingness to sign the guys, like getting a Spielman, getting a Capers in there, getting the guys that all of us. I had never heard of Home. I knew of Campbell, but I didn't know he was in a coaching tier to where you could be a head coach at that point. They went out and found them, and they got the right people involved with it. They're getting very more involved. I think Calvin's coming around. You've got Herman Moore in there, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. Thomas Brown is around. You're just getting these key guys. I think what you need to start getting to is like your Glover Quinns need to come around a little bit more. That's a guy I think you could benefit in that building. And I believe he's still in the area. I'm not really sure. He might have a home in this area too. Um, Joey Bell, he does a lot with Woodward Sports. But he's a Michigan guy through and through, but he's a Lions advocate. So it's gonna get fun. It really is. Now you're gonna get the cross-functional sports too. You're gonna get the Tigers involved with this because they're probably gonna come cheer on the Lions. You're gonna like just like the Lions do with the Red Wings all the time, or they go to the Tigers. I want to get Detroit a sports town again. mean, I know I'm 3 hours away, but I enjoy that town so much that, um, when you go, you just like to see it rocking and people rocking the gear and talking about, well, did you watch the playoff game? They took them to 7, they lost, but it was really good, or get the Red Wings back to what they need to be. The Tigers, we'll see what happens there. They actually had a little winning streak got going on there. They're 9 games under 500 now. They've actually put on a run. So you can see these cores actually coming together. And I think that's how you're going to start seeing the city do it. And now they're pouring money into the city. So it's a good thing. The next decade should be a really good thing for this city and this state.
Yeah, and Red Wings are doing it really well with bringing back Steve Yzerman as GM. Right there, he was my favorite player. I remember one of the first hockey games I ever did was literally 2000 2K 2001 NHL,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the best player on the team by far. And when I heard that they went ahead and brought him back, I'm like, that's the smartest decision, especially if you want to go win another Stanley Cup.
Sam,
And
that's where you're getting. I mean, you're spot on, Sam, because he's coming in and taking a player like Anthony Mantha, who's a good player for us, and he flipped him for some good picks and a couple good players that have actually performed okay for us. So, Troy Weaver did it with the Pistons. I mean, he turned around and flipped Luke Kennard and I think a future pick for Sadiq Bey, who I think is going to be a star in this league. So it I mean, he was a rookie leader for the Pistons, I think, for number of threes made this year. I mean, he was top 5 in the league for rookies, or top 5 in the league for, I don't remember. I don't know if it was for the team or for the league, but top 5 that have so many, like, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and those guys that were throwing 3 numbers out there. And if you can turn around and start saying, okay, well, we can trade some of our guys that everybody likes, but if we can flip it and get somebody who's better plus a pick or whatever, and not go backwards and actually go forward, we're fine. And I think that's going to happen in all of these sports. I think this is going to become a sports town again, which it should be.
yeah,
So,
and somebody wants to go ahead and say hi.
What's up, man?
How's it going?
It's going all right, man.
Good.
So, but yeah, no, sorry you couldn't get in here and talk a little bit more, but we'll have to get you in there. You had to catch your game.
Yeah.
So
Hey, I just gotta say that I'm glad that offer to the other Coach Campbell wasn't legit. I mean, no disrespect against Campbell from Iowa State, but I'm glad we got the guy who we got, because I think he's going to be much better motivator. And I think they got the right guy. And for other people, other GMs who interviewed for the position that wanted him as well, it shows that they got the right culture man, the right motivator, the teacher as well to get them going. So should be a fun year.
absolutely, man. We're getting there. I'm going to get to a game this year. Whether I have my wife with me and one of my kids with me, or just me, that's fine. We're getting to a game. So I'll be sure to look you guys up for sure if that's what we want to do. But yeah, I'm stoked. I like I said, I told Sam last week, got to rein the reins back a little bit and not get too excited. But at the same time, why not? Let's all get excited.
Exactly. So good seeing you, man.
Yeah, you as well. All right, Sam. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. I got the SOS text from my wife saying she needs some help putting these other kids down. So, but I appreciate you sitting in with me and chatting about the coaches. We went a little long, but that's all right. I think I think this is an excellent episode. I'm excited for people to hear this. I'm excited for those on YouTube to hear and comment and give me the thoughts on what I had said, and give thoughts what Sam had said, and obviously the little few minutes there that Jack said, he brought up a good point with Campbell. We never did bring that up. True or not, I think we got our guy as well, and I don't need to belabor at that. Honestly, I think Matt Campbell is best off staying at Iowa State or going to another program, because he knows how to build a college program for sure, and he will get paid there. Now, his dream may be in the NFL. That's one thing, but I think that guy knows how to take a college program and turn it around.
Yeah. So, and hey, he came from Toledo, so
I know That's why I was talking them up for you. But all right, man. Well, unless you have anything else, I think I'm gonna wrap it up, kind of turn the lights off in the lounge and call it a night, man.
All right, yeah, sounds good. I think we've talked about almost everything that we wanted to tonight. So
Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out, man.
yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, and as always,
One pride.
Lions. Yes, one line. With two things. There's always two things, right? There's always one pride and go Lions. So, go Lions, one pride.
All right. See you later, Tyler.